Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
And I'm Bob. Happy Friday.
Welcome back to our Top 5 Fridays ski industry news videos. I think it's going to be a pretty easy week. I know I was just saying that, and I also know I say that often, and it ends up being like 20 minutes exactly every week.
Something always comes up.
There's some subconscious force that makes these videos 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll see if that holds true today.
See if we hit it, yeah.
I could just sit here and talk more. Won't do that. We don't really have that much to talk about before we get into the news, but the couple things, or one important thing that I do want to talk about, we've been mentioning and talking about our tariff-free pre-orders for a while now. So basically pre-orders for skis and boards before any effects of tariff on pricing. And there's been some uncertainty of when those changes were going to go into effect. We have basically been waiting for new MAP restrictions from our brands or our partners, the manufacturers, and that's starting to happen. So MAP, we talked about it before, but stands for minimum advertised price. And basically, if a manufacturer has to raise their prices due to the effects of tariffs on their end, we are required as a dealer, as we sign our dealer agreements, and we're required to adhere to that.
Yeah.
And that is coming. So June 16th, which is 10 days from now, will be the last day that we are going to offer those essentially pre-tariff prices on pre-orders. It's also the last day that we can offer that $100 coupon that we're using to lock in pre-tariff pricing.
If you don't know what you want to buy.
Exactly. Yeah. That is also refundable too, that $100 coupon. So if it's like a no-risk thing, if you decide that you don't want to buy anything, just let us know and we'll refund it. But if you do buy it, it locks you into pre-tariff pricing. Definitely not all brands are going to be the same with how the prices are increasing. Some are not increasing. It does seem like most are at least a little bit, some more substantially than others. So yeah, it's happening.
Yeah.
But we wanted to give you like this, kind of last window to get them in, get pre-orders in, buy the $100 tariff-free price guarantee coupon, and then after June 16th,
you're on your own.
Yeah, we'll still do our best to help you out as much as we can, but we'll still have pre-orders on the website, but the prices will have gone up, and we can no longer offer those pre-tariff prices. And at that point, we're halfway through June. We're going to start receiving 2026 skis pretty soon. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have pre-orders in that time period, but realistically, we're getting pretty close to the time when you don't have to pre-order things because they're right downstairs.
Actual skis being bought.
Or right over there. Some things are on this floor. Only other thing that I want to mention is we finally got to that Griffin X M-Werks and Jester X M-Werks review. We did call it a review, but in hindsight, it was a little bit more of like, we did a lot of introduction and first impressions videos this year and kind of fell more into that bucket.
Even though it was made in June.
Yeah, and we called it a review.
Yeah.
So there were some good comments, some good questions asking about stuff that we didn't cover, and I totally understand why people would want to know those things. And this will not be the last time we talk about that binding. We're working on setting up an interview with Andy Mon, who we've talked to before, we've interviewed before, and we referenced him in that video that we put out yesterday. So we can chat with him.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to I will assume that Andy will watch our video at some point before we talk to him, and it'll be nice to just kind of put out a blanket question of like, what did we get wrong?
Yeah.
Or like, what did we not describe as well as we could have?
Right. Yeah.
He's always really good at setting us straight.
Well, I'm always receptive to new information. Like, I
Totally.
think we both kind of understand that there's a lot more out there than
Totally.
Everyone knows except for the people that actually put the thing together.
Yeah.
So I'm always willing to defer to their expertise.
Yeah. So that'll be really fun. And then I still have that Revolt 96 with the Jester X M-Werks on it, and I don't plan on giving it back to anybody. So I will definitely keep skiing that next season, and maybe we'll do some like on snow binding chats.
Yep.
Or like, what would be really cool is maybe we'll get another Revolt 96 and mount it with a normal Jester, and I could just switch back and forth from one run to the next.
Well, same hole pattern. You can just unscrew your bindings and screw the other ones right in.
I mean, that would be harder to switch back and forth run after run.
We got a drill.
Not impossible, but it would be pretty annoying. So anyways, if you haven't seen that, I would encourage you to check that out because it is a pretty interesting binding, and there hasn't really been anything like it ever before.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. That's it. You ready for the news, Bob?
Sure am.
So first topic of the week, we talked about him last week, but Rob Katz, just 1 week into his second tenure as CEO of Vail Resorts, has reclassified Vail's resorts. It's always really awkward saying Vail's Resorts.
Right.
Vail
including Vail's
Vail-
Resort of Vail.
Including, yes,
Yeah.
Vail Resorts, including Vail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so I thought this was pretty interesting, and I'm willing to make some speculation about what this could mean. But basically, they've taken all of the resorts that they own and put them into kind of different tiers. So the kind of top tier is what they're calling a destination resort. This includes Beaver Creek, Breckenridge, Keystone, Vail, and Whistler. I would call it the second tier is what they're calling regional destinations, which includes Crested Butte, Heavenly, Kirkwood, Mount Snow, North Star, Okemo, Stevens Pass, and Stowe. We made the cut.
Sweet.
Yeah, we're a regional destination. And then I didn't write down all the resorts because there's a lot of them, but then kind of the next one down is local. And then there's also Europe and Australia that they kind of like grouped as one thing. And what they've also done is they've named a COO for kind of each of these classifications. And I get the impression that this means that they are at least willing to go down the path of better understanding what a small local resort needs to be a good ski area, as opposed to Whistler, because those things are very different.
Right.
And like a big complaint or a big like piece of feedback that Vail Resorts has received over the decade,
20
at
years
this
almost.
point, 2 decades, is that they don't really understand the like grassroots culture, the family resorts of skiing. And yeah, this makes me at least optimistic that they're going to try.
Yeah, I think that the fear is that the locals will get kind of the dregs. Like that's
right.
When I read this, I was like, ooh, like, is this going to be bad news for Attitash and Sunapee and Wildcat, who I only assume are on
Correct.
the local program?
You are correct.
If they have $100 to spread out, is destination going to get 60, and is local destination going to get regional destination get 20 and local get 10?
I mean, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Probably. But
I know they're not all going to get the same, but
yeah,
I think that's the fear is that.
Like I would hope that Attitash doesn't get as much money as Whistler.
Right.
Like that would be a mistake.
Be great for Attitash.
This operations perspective. But at least like, I don't know, it does make me hopeful that like, if they have an officer level position that's directly overseeing or like directly in charge of understanding these smaller resorts, I feel like that can only help. Attitash doesn't need a lot of money. They need
people.
They need people, and which obviously is money, but they don't need like a $5 million influx to build a bunch of stuff. Maybe they do. I haven't been to Attitash.
I don't know. Well, it does seem to
drive by it a lot.
It makes more sense to separate them by by need versus not everything
Right.
in the Rockies is the same,
Right.
like you're saying. So
Right.
like this makes sense. And
Yeah.
to attract people all around the world to go to Whistler, they're going to go to Whistler. They're not going to fly to Attitash.
Right. And like a place like Attitash needs more like small community-oriented fun events.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't really cost that much money. You
Yeah.
know, it just takes some effort and some reapplied resources. So I thought that was cool. In other news with Vail, so we learned more about late Apex partners. Do you remember when we were talking about the letter that was sent to Vail Resorts from late Apex partners?
Now I feel like an idiot.
Turns out it's just one dude. Yeah. Yeah, who kind of, in a very savvy way, created late Apex partners as a way to sound a little bit more official when he was reaching out to businesses that he was interested in investing in.
It worked.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, kudos.
Can't argue with the success there.
Regret not writing down his actual name, but yeah, kudos to the man behind late Apex partners for arguably single-handedly disrupting the Vail Resorts as a major organization. So that's all I got. You got any other thoughts about Rob Katz and Vail Resorts?
I noticed that they were also putting an emphasis on, like snowmaking, grooming, ski patrol operations, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
Which I've always felt like
The baseline stuff.
Here at Stowe, it's like make snow, run the lifts.
Yeah.
Like there's not
about
there's
it.
not a whole lot.
If you do those two things, people are going to be real happy.
People are going to be happy.
Yeah.
Just do those two things, and you're going to have a nice time on the ski mountain.
Yeah.
So-
If you really want to go above and beyond and make people at Stowe happy, you could not charge for parking.
Right.
Then people would be like over the moon.
Right.
So it's not rocket science.
No, but it's it sounds simple, but it's never that easy.
Yeah, I don't manage a huge
Right.
multi-million-dollar conglomerate.
Not yet.
Eesh. I don't know if I'm cut out for that, Bob. Anyways, second topic of the week. This is piggybacking off of a topic that we've been discussing this for years now. The FIS has put out a fan survey to better learn how their fans interact with FIS media coverage. I thought this was pretty cool. We've been talking about how the media coverage for FIS events is not very good. They have acknowledged it and mentioned that it's something that they want to work on, and this feels a little bit more concrete. And it's pretty interesting. They actually ask you some customized follow-up questions depending on your answers. And it includes like your reaction to potential different event formats, which I thought was interesting.
Hard to imagine that those will be implemented if someone says,
I thought that was,
I want to see more tricks in snowboard cross.
yeah,
Like, why? It's a timed event.
right. Yeah, I don't know that the disciplines or formats need to be changed personally.
No, they just need to put the events on TV.
I know.
People,
Yeah, it's like,
again, it sounds simple. It's like making snow and running the lifts. Just show the thing on TV. No, there's the end of my survey.
we'll host it on our YouTube channel. Is that helpful?
Can we do that?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, we could do
great.
that. I mean, it literally wouldn't be helpful. But we could do it.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see stuff like that in the golf world. All sorts of like events hosted on individual YouTube channels.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. So, anyways, fingers crossed that we'll get slightly better media coverage going forward in FIS events. Third topic of the week. This one's pretty small, but exciting. 2 resorts will be adding lift service mountain biking to round out 4-season operations. I feel like that's something that we've been talking about a lot of these resorts trying to kind of bridge their off-season with more summer activities or more shoulder season activities. So we've got Sugarloaf in Maine and Hatley Point in North Carolina. They both plan to open lift service downhill mountain biking. Sugarloaf will actually be ready this summer on July 4th. They already have a really strong mountain bike scene up there in Carabasset Valley, and they've got some existing trails that just weren't lift service before. I think they're building one like machine-built, flowy, jumpy trail. So that's exciting. I don't make it up to Sugarloaf much at all anymore. I'm getting like a million text messages. Whoever they need to calm down.
Don't they know what Top 5 Friday time?
I'm not going to look at it because they need to calm down. Anyways, yeah. So I'm excited. I know Sugarloaf or Carabas Valley has a really good mountain biking scene.
Yeah.
It's not like a very well populated area, so I always wonder like the sustainability of stuff like that. But like the golf course is very popular, so there's people there in the summer.
And like that outdoor center that they have there is pretty comprehensive, and I think that they do a good job with events. I know they have some big long endurance race up there. I forget what it is, mountain bike, but
they do stuff.
Yeah, they do stuff.
And it's amazing that like people just drive there from Portland without batting an eye.
That's pretty far.
I know, but it's like
yeah,
I've seen it my whole life. I was never quite lucky enough to be one of those families that drove to Sugarloaf every weekend.
Yeah.
Whatever. Hatley Point, on the other hand, is aiming for summer of 2026. They have teamed up with Elevated Trail Design. So if you're a downhill mountain biker and you live in these areas, you should be really excited. If you've never gone downhill mountain biking, I would highly recommend it. And I would also recommend wearing as much safety equipment as you can. Have you ever been lift service riding?
Not before things were invented that made it
Like
fun and safe.
Like back in the 90s? Yeah.
You used to be able to put whatever bike you want on the gondola at Loon and ride down like the road.
Yeah. It was Shawnee Peak then, now it's back to Pleasant Mountain, but Shawnee Peak, when I was a kid, they had downhill mountain biking. And they just let you use whatever bike you want.
Yep.
And like they didn't even have trails really. It was just gravel roads basically. And I rode downhill all day at Shawnee Peak on like a rigid LL Bean bike.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Like not even 2-inch.
No.
I remember not even 2-inch wide tires.
Not even close.
I don't think I had a helmet.
I had a helmet.
Pouring rain. And
super narrow handlebars.
Not even V brakes. Not V, not C. What are the ones that were shaped like this?
Like all metal things without the I don't know. Cantilever? Is it
I don't know. Is that a C brake?
I don't know.
Anyway, worse than V brakes. Before V brakes came out.
Yeah.
Like horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those things like didn't stop anywhere.
Especially in the pouring rain.
Down a mountain.
Yeah. It was gnarly.
Anyways, so if you're in those areas, check them out. And then fourth topic of the week, I didn't really write down any notes. We have a interview with Sage Cattabriga-Alosa with Ski Magazine. And I thought that all I'd really say is I have so much respect for anybody like Sage that manages to have that much longevity as a professional skier. It is really, really hard to sustain like that career.
Yep. Yeah.
Injuries, fatigue, like it's tough.
Yeah. And we've shown some of these, Let's Take a Lap videos. Like that's some of my favorite stuff from a conceptual standpoint.
Yeah, he's done an incredible job staying relevant. I think you could look back to the early 2000s and there were all sorts of people that were kind of felt like bigger names than Sage, but they haven't had the staying power. So I think that's really cool. Check that interview out. And then lastly, we've got our edits of the week here. First, we've got Finn Ballou, Calm Beneath Castles. I always really enjoy watching Finn Ballou ski. Tons of style. And then we've got an Instabranger from the Nines event with Luca Harrington. You were watching this one, Bob. I watched it at home the other night, and it is incredible.
The slush format is crazy in a venue like that.
Totally.
Like normally, you watch it more than I do, but it seems like it's more smaller scale things.
Generally,
like this is a much bigger scale with infinitely more possibilities for jumps.
Yeah. You were watching it without sound, right?
Yeah.
There's kind of a funny moment in the beginning of the video which kind of this goes along with what you were just saying, where he's like kind of joking. So the Instabanger thing is you can leave comments on an Instagram post of tricks that you want to see, and then the athlete will like scroll through the list of tricks and try and do as many as he can. And at the beginning of the video, he's like, I'm just not going to do many quints, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
Which is like hilarious that people
Yeah.
were asking for quintuple corks and quintuple flips.
In all
which is like,
seriousness,
in
yeah.
all seriousness,
Yeah.
because it's 100% possible on
Yeah.
those jumps. So I thought that was cool. And then we've got WBZ TV Boston anchor skiing Tuckerman's Ravine. This was interesting.
Yeah.
Enforcer 104 skier, great to see. Enforcer
Yep.
104 free skier.
Yes. Yep. The good ones.
Yeah. Sorry.
Actually, no, I like the new one more.
Sorry, Nordica. At least you got Bob.
Yeah.
You don't have me. I'm sorry. I want my old Enforcer 104 free back. I still own one, so I guess I'm still good.
Yeah, you're all set.
The rest of the industry isn't. And then lastly, we've got a video unboxing a line reactor binding and like a mothership that's still in the plastic. So shout out to whoever kept these things in their closet or basement, still in the original packaging. And if you're unfamiliar with the line reactor binding and you got some time to kill, I would encourage you to go down an internet rabbit hole and learn everything there is to know about the line reactor binding, because it was like kind of close to revolutionizing bindings.
And I was thinking about it after we watched that, like how many things in the ski industry were an inch away from becoming more popular? You know, something like that.
Yeah, line reactors gotta be one.
Just things that were kind of a hot thing for a moment, or maybe didn't, like all that needed was another company to jump on, was for Marker or Look to be like, yeah, we're going to put this platform on all of our skis and bindings. You know, it probably wouldn't take a whole lot.
It'd be great if we could have a guest appearance from Jason Leventhal right
Yeah.
now, because he could, and I don't want to misspeak here, but I believe the other binding companies kind of helped to kill it. And I might be remembering this wrong, and maybe
Yeah.
this is propaganda
Yeah.
that I've learned from Jason Leventhal, but I do remember like there was potential, and then like
Yeah.
they just kind of killed it.
Yeah.
So-
I don't know. There's like so many what ifs.
Yeah, what else is on your what ifs?
I couldn't think of any.
I don't have lights on my skis anymore.
Yeah.
I used to have lights on a lot of skis.
But those had like a good run.
The light skis.
Yeah.
Was it all K2 or did anybody else have lights?
I'm not sure. But there's lots of little weird inventions like that have claimed one thing or another, and I just wonder how many have missed out on mainstream success by a slim margin.
I always thought the light was an interesting choice because you wanted to look at it.
Yeah.
Like it didn't do anything other than show you something, and you didn't notice it unless you were looking at your skis while you were skiing,
Right.
which never seemed like a great idea.
I never had light skis.
You never had light skis?
Nope.
You didn't have like a K2 Merlin?
Nope.
What were you doing?
No idea.
You were probably still skiing bumps, right?
Probably.
In like 1998?
That's like the last of my bump specific skis, and then it was right from there to twin tips in 2000.
What was your first twin tip?
The Dina Star Concept Candide.
Mine was the K2 Enemy,
Yeah.
not the Public Enemy. Do you remember
Just
the Enemy?
Yeah.
With like the stars,
Mhm.
and like the twin tip was like that high.
Yeah.
I still have them.
I wish I had my concepts.
Mine are in rough shape.
Yeah.
They also have, I think I've talked about this before. They have silver Sharpie all over them, crossing out all the K2s. This is actually very ironic. Crossing out all the K2s and writing line, because Will Wesson was sleeping on my couch in Mammoth, and we were snowed in, so we built a bunch of stuff in the yard. Will was a recent line athlete, still a line athlete, and his skis were up at Mammoth.
Yeah.
So we like took my old K2 Enemies, crossed out all the K2 things, and wrote line, and then filmed some stuff. and now
now
they're
they're-
like basically the same company.
Yep.
I should take a picture of those skis and send it to Josh. Anyways, so that's it. I bet that was exactly 20 minutes.
Just that last little tangent gets you over the hump.
Yeah. So anyways, hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.